U.S. and Iranian officials are set to hold another round of nuclear talks in Geneva today as military tensions thicken between the two nations, while envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are expected to lead these negotiations. President Trump says he will be indirectly involved. Listen.
I'll be involved in those talks indirectly, and they'll be very important. We'll see what can happen. I mean, it's been typically Iran's a very tough negotiator. They're good negotiators or bad negotiators. I would say they're bad negotiators because we could have had a deal instead of sending the B-2s in to knock out their nuclear potential. I think they want to make a deal. I don't think they want the consequences of not making a deal. They want to make a deal.
Joining me now is senior fellow at the Hudson Institute, Rebecca Heinrichs. Rebecca, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. The Iranian foreign minister posted this on X. He says, "I am in Geneva with real ideas to achieve a fair and equitable deal. What is not on the table, submission before threats." And apparently some of those real ideas posed by the Iranians right now are entering into an economic partnership with the U.S., including buying our airplanes. So what will the headline be when this round of discussions is over?
Hi, Carly. I think that one of the headlines is going to be that the Iranian regime is still not interested in negotiating in good faith. When President Trump indicates that he's still optimistic that the other party wants a deal, we've seen this time and again with President Trump when he's trying to engage in diplomacy, expressing that he is hopeful, almost trying to sort of force and compel the other side to actually negotiate in good faith. But we've seen nothing from the Iranians. President Trump has ordered a second carrier strike group in the region, as you know, Carly, which there's such massive naval and air power now surrounding the Iranians. And even Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner have indicated to reporters that they're not hopeful that a deal can be reached at this point.
Yeah, so President Trump said on Friday in no uncertain terms that he does believe that regime change in Iran would be the best possible outcome or the best course of action. Iran is also right now rebuilding its nuclear program and says that they will not negotiate when it comes to ballistic missiles or the proxies. So is military action by the U.S. all but inevitable at this point?
I think it is. I think it should be, Carly, in part because President Trump put down that red line when he said the regime can't kill protesters. And we know that the regime killed as many as 30,000 Iranian protesters who want to take their country back. And that red line has not changed. And so the Trump administration has said, Carly, that they want the regime to stop repressing its people. Marco Rubio said this very clearly. They want the regime to get rid of its ballistic missile program, as you indicated. Before the United States with the Israelis launched that campaign against Iran, the Iranians had about 3,000 ballistic missiles, a large, diverse missile force that can reach Europeans. It can reach, obviously, Israel, can reach American bases. With the Israelis, they've degraded that about by half, we think. But the Chinese are now helping with component parts, helping the Iranians rebuild their ballistic missile force. And so that's obviously a key interest of the United States for that to be dismantled. And of course, the last point, we want them to completely disavow and get rid of and dismantle the remaining parts of their nuclear program, which the regime has remained defiant and has refused to do.
Well, Rebecca, it's going to be a hugely busy day for Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff because they have these Iranian negotiations in the morning, and then they're going to be entering into talks between Russia and Ukraine in the afternoon. And Marco Rubio said at this Geneva conference that we don't know if the Russians are serious about ending the war. They say they are, but under what terms? That's really the open question here. So this will be the third round of talks, and it's just about as many weeks. What happens here?
Well, Carly, I think that a couple of things that we got to get the facts right. The Russians are struggling and failing to take any more territory in Ukraine. The Russians are relying on the help from North Koreans still to replenish their forces. And they're forcing or paying other Russians to fight in their war. So they're looking for manpower. They're looking to rebuild. The Ukrainians, meanwhile, are still being replenished primarily through European weapons. The Europeans are buying weapons from the United States. But the United States is no longer the primary provider of weapons to Ukraine. And so Ukrainians want to say, look, we want to have security guarantees from the United States and the Europeans to make sure that the Russians can't rebuild if we can get to a ceasefire. And we do not want to reward the Russians with granting them territory that they have not taken by force, which is, of course, that Donetsk region. And so these are the sticking points, Carly, that I expect to continue to come up in negotiations.
Senior fellow at the Hudson Institute, Rebecca Heinrichs, we thank you so much for your time and insight this morning.